with, where are we? We are in, still in, good Lord, we are. Still in the first half of Two Towers, so we're going to zip, I hope.
Lots of midgets.
I want to pick up on around 5:14 or so, 5:13. And I've got a quiz of yours. So, this is after Gandalf and Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are welcomed into Meduseld. And Gandalf goes in with his staff. They all lay their weapons aside, even Aragorn. I mean, he even lays he puts Excalibur, leans it up against the wall, essentially. But Gandalf says, if you're not going to let an old man hang on to his crutch, they didn't come out here and talk to me. Hama says, okay. Or the door warden says, okay. So Gandalf goes in. And we hear Theoden address him, 5:13, calls him Gandalf Stormcrow. And Wormtongue, makes some derogatory comments. And then Gandalf says, you are held wise, my friend Wormtongue, and are doubtless a great support to your master. Yet in two ways may a man come with evil tidings. He may be a worker of evil, or he may merely bring news of evil. Okay? Wormtongue says, yeah, there's a third kind too, pickers of bones, meddlers, and other men's sorrows. What aid have you ever brought? What aid are you bringing now? Okay. Gandalf, courtesy of your hall has somewhat lessened of late, Theoden. In other words, what happened to manners? What happened to just good common sense, manners? You welcome somebody, etc., etc. Okay? So, Wormtongue says, so you are in league with the Lady of the Golden Wood, etc., etc. And Gandalf has enough. We're told, middle of 5:14. The wise speak of only what they know, Grima, son of Galamod. Notice what he's just done there. He hasn't called him Grima Wormtongue. He says, I know you. I know your father. Yeah, it's kind of like, I know where you live. I can send a guy. A witless worm have you become. Therefore, be silent. Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth. Forked. Why?
Snake.
Okay, why else?
Evil.
Lies.
Bad thing.
Spreading lies.
How so? The idea of a forked tongue?
So you're talking about both sides.
You're talking about both sides. You're saying this over here to this group, this over here to this group. Okay? And Wormtongue's like, damn it, I told you to take away his staff. So there's a flash, Wormtongue sprawling on the ground, and Gandalf says, now Theoden, son of Thingol, will you hearken to me? Do you ask for help? And he lifts his staff, points to a high window. Now notice this isn't just a log cabin. It is a log cabin. Okay? It's an Anglo-Saxon hall, which means its walls are probably, 20, 30 feet tall, but there's a window up there. Not a window with glass. It's just an opening cut. Okay? And Gandalf points to it, and through the darkness, you can see a little patch of shining sky. Why through the darkness? Because the hall itself is dark. Okay? It has in the center, if this whiteboard were the floor plan of the hall, it would have right in the center a hearth, a fire pit. Not a fireplace with, nice chimney and everything. Just an open fire, and there would be a hole cut in the roof for the smoke eventually to get out of. Eventually. But the rest of the hall is kind of smoky and dark and dank and such. So, Gandalf points to the one window, and you see a little bit of light. Not all is dark. Well, how much is? It's mostly dark. There's a little bit of light, but take courage, Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. He says, I don't give counsel to those that despair. Why? Earlier, Council of Elrond, when it was said it would be despair to try to take the ring to Mordor, Gandalf says, no, it wouldn't. Despair is for whom? Those who know all ends. Those who know there is no hope. Do they know there is no hope? No. How much hope do they think there might be? A little teeny tiny bit, but it's a little. Okay? He says, but I could give you counsel. You want to hear my counsel? Will you? They're not for everybody. Come out before your doors. In other words, leave your dark hall. Theoden slowly gets up out of his chair. Notice, a faint light grew in the hall again. Is that because Gandalf's sitting back there with the dimmer switch, and as Theoden gets up, he goes, cue the lights. This is good. This is really good. You know. We're not told that Gandalf does anything. Why is it dark? It's because Theoden's mind is dark. When Theoden starts to get up, he's fighting back. What's he fighting back against? Is it like in the film? If you saw the god-awful abomination. In the film, what has happened to Theoden? What do you mean he's overtaken?
He's like in his mind.
He's possessed. This is classic, quote-unquote, Christian possession. A demon has taken hold of him. The demon happens to be named Saruman. So that Gandalf, whips his staff out, goes, hits him with, Ghostbusters light, whatever. And we see Saruman writhing in Theoden before he leaves. Utter nonsense. Okay? This is a lot better. So, he gets up and we start to see the light rise. Gandalf says, open the doors. So they open the doors and what's going to obviously, naturally happen? Light rushes in. Okay? They go out to the porch. So, here's the hall. There's a porch right here. There are steps leading down. Gandalf says, send everybody away. Just you and I out here. So, Eowyn goes down. And Gandalf says, look out upon your land. Breathe the free air. Not the foul stench. All the smoke and everything from inside. Why look upon your land? What is Gandalf suggesting? What can Theoden get from seeing the land? Inspiration? What does inspiration literally mean? This was not a plant, but thank you, Paul. It means to breathe in. Okay? What is he breathing in? What did Eothane say earlier? Do we walk in legends on the green earth? And Aragorn says, you can do both. The green earth is a matter of legend. He's breathing in fresh air. He's seeing what? His connection to the land. And that is inspiring him. Okay? And we get this description. From the porch upon the top of the high terrace, they could see beyond the stream the green fields of Rohan fading into distant gray. Curtains of wind-blown rain were slanting down. The sky above and to the west was still dark with thunder, and lightning far away flickered among the tops of hidden hills. But the wind had shifted to the north, and already the storm that had come out of the east, area of Mordor, towards them, was receding, rolling away southward to the sea. Suddenly, through a rent in the clouds behind them, so Gandalf and Theoden are standing here, they're looking out on the land of Rohan, and clouds are coming in, and suddenly behind them, there's a hole in the clouds. And a shaft of sunlight shines down. The falling showers gleamed like silver, and far away the river glittered like a glimmering glass. Why that imagery? Would you mind closing that door? Why the imagery that the showers now look like silver? Why not just showers? Precious, beautiful, it's moving, it's stirring imagery. Okay? But what else? The cloud is gathering. And yet, you get a little ray of sunshine, a little light, a little bit, like in the hall, hope. It's not all dark. So that Theoden says, it is not so dark here. Why does he say that? Okay, one, literally, because it's not so dark here. Why else? Metaphorically. There's hope. What else? Where has it been dark? His mind has been darkened. No, says Gandalf, nor does age lie so heavily on your shoulders as some would have you think. Cast aside your prop. How old is Theoden? Cast aside your prop. He's got either a walking stick or a cane. And he's putting all of his weight on that. Gandalf says, throw away your stick and do what? And you can just hear it as all of his joints crack and pop. Gandalf's saying, you're not that old. If anybody who's here now, or in the vicinity, needs a walking stick, who should it be?
Gandalf.
Well, Gandalf, because he's really old. Who human? Aragorn, he's 87 freaking years old. He doesn't have one. From the king's hand, the black staff fell clattering on the stones. He drew himself up. Now, if this were Rowling, you'd have Dumbledore, literally drawing something. And as a man that is stiff from long bending over some dull toil, now tall and straight he stood, and his eyes were blue, where before they were kind of clouded. Why blue? Because the blue is reflecting the clearness of his mind, whereas before they were clouded, reflecting the opacity of his mind. Dark have been my dreams of late, but I feel as one new awakened, new born like. I would now, would there means wished, desired, wanted. I wish you came earlier, Gandalf. What could Gandalf say? Well, I did, actually. I came a few years ago. I asked to borrow your horse. You said, okay, you can take a horse, and what did you do? You took the very best one, and I wasn't happy with that. So, what can we do? Gandalf, there's a lot. Let Éomer out of prison. I know that's where you got him. Get your sword back. Why?
You're going to need it.
You're going to need it. Why else? More obvious reason.
He's not had a sword.
He's what else? He's a warrior. Take your weapon of choice. Gandalf's kind of implying just holding that sword will do what?
Power.
Be like He-Man, It'll make you strong, etc. So, what does he do? 5:17. Alas, that these evil days should be mine, should come in my old age. Instead of peace and he starts to... Batteries run out. Gandalf, your fingers would remember their old strength better if they grasped a sword hilt. And he gets his sword, and he's backing upright again. So what is Theoden ready to do after Gandalf arrives? Ride to war. So they give Wormtongue a choice. What's the choice? Ride with us or leave. If he rides with them, what does he prove? His loyalty. Of course, what might happen if he rides with them? You might die, because you're going off to war. Where does Wormtongue go? Goes to Saruman. Why? Not a warrior, coward. So, we're going to skip a bunch. Éowyn meets Aragorn, and her heart just starts a-fluttering. And we get Chapter 7, Helm's Deep. How many of you have seen the film, Two Towers? How long is the Battle of Helm's Deep in the film?
Oh, really long.
It's like 45 minutes. It's like 45 minutes in a movie about 2.5 hours long. I mean, it's a good fourth to a third of the entire film. I counted it, so I've got this marked. The Battle of Helm's Deep is only 9 pages. The chapter, Helm's Deep, is only 16 pages
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it.
out of about 400. Okay? When this film came out, when Two Towers came out, I was on speaking at a conference, and I was part of a panel. When was this? 2004. I was part of a panel. It was a Tolkien conference in Oxford. And the panel was, does Tolkien glorify war? And I was like, hell no. Tolkien doesn't glorify war. Well, the reason the question was raised was because of the film. Because the film, what? Oh, man, it really glorifies war. It's all about killing orcs. And, you get the little contest between Legolas and Gimli becomes the whole purpose for the Battle of Helm's Deep. Who can kill the most? Utterly ridiculous. So we're going to skip most of the Battle of Helm's Deep.
The film didn't have Shelob in it.
It's in the third one.
Yeah, that's not in the second book. So they prepare 10,000 CGI orcs, line up, outside the mass over them. Too bad they can't just, inject a little computer virus and, take care of them. So Aragorn, Theoden, Éomer, they ride out to take on the orcs. And who comes to their rescue? Page 541. Erkenbrand and, before, the White Rider. There's Gandalf. Okay? So the orcs are taken care of. They make their way towards Isengard. They see the Hjorns. Legolas wants to go among the Hjorns. Who are the Hjorns? They're those trees that move and take care of what? You can kind of think of them as vacuum cleaners. But what do they vacuum up? All the orcs. The Hjorns come and the orcs are gone when the Hjorns leave. Not necessarily told, do they bury them? Do they eat them? But Legolas wants to go in and Gandalf says, no, you don't want to go on those trees. So they don't. So they go to Isengard. Who do they meet? Flotsam and Jetsam. They ride to Isengard and they're sitting on two big slabs of broken stone, or two midgets. Big old steins of beer and smoking weed. Pipe weed. Long bottom leaf, an old Toby and such. So we see the rejoining of Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Merry and Pippin. Now, notice what Tolkien's done. Fellowship of the Ring ends how? Okay. We have Gandalf dead. We have Frodo and Sam off to Mordor. We don't have Boromir dead, not yet. Not at the end of Fellowship. This is the end of Fellowship. Okay? We have Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir looking for Frodo. Right? Oh yeah. Merry and Pippin have run off. They're not yet captured by orcs, but So you have, he's still dead. And then, these three kind of threads. Two Towers comes, and it opens, and Gandalf is still dead. Okay? Boromir is now dead. Merry and Pippin captured by the orcs. Frodo and Sam still off to Mordor, not at the beginning, still off to Mordor. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli chasing Merry and Pippin. Okay? And then what does he do? Okay, we see Boromir dead, buried, fine. We see Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli go off. We see briefly Merry and Pippin, so we follow this thread. We follow this thread. Dead. This thread comes back in here, so he goes off with them. We're left with Merry and Frodo, Sam and Frodo where?
Way to more.
We're still
Way to more.
there, Flotsam and Jetsam. We left them back there. Okay, so we have Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli catch up with Merry and Pippin. So they talk a lot. They talk about Treebeard and such. They meet Treebeard. So Gandalf says, "I'm going to go talk with not Aragorn, Saruman." So he goes up. Who else goes with Gandalf? Okay, and where does he specifically go? Does he stand at the bottom of Orthanc, the tower, Saruman, and yell up to the top? No, he climbs the stairway that goes up, and then there's a landing, and then there's a door, and then there's another landing up above that. Okay, so Gandalf goes up there. Who goes with him? Gandalf, Theoden, Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas. Okay, what about the hobbits? They're down below with the riders. Okay, so Gandalf orders Wormtongue to bring Saruman out, 578-79. And Saruman comes out, and we get this description page, middle of 578, of his voice. And his voice has a spell to it. It's enchantment. And we're told everybody is affected. And he comes out and says, "Well, why must you disturb my rest? Will you give me no peace?" And everybody looks up, and they see an old man swathed in a great cloak, blah, 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 blah. And Gimli, like, you don't like. In other words, looks like Gandalf, but not quite the same. So he addresses Gandalf, and he addresses Theoden. How does he address Theoden? "O worthy son of Thingol, the thrice renowned." Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's some nice stroking going on there. All right. He asks Theoden, "Do you want peace? Do you want aid? I can help you." Theoden opens his mouth to speak and doesn't say anything. Gimli interrupts. "The words of this wizard stand on their heads. In the language of Orthanc, help means ruin, saving means slain. That is plain." Now, I have no idea if this is true or not, but I kind of wonder if George Orwell had published, George Orwell, had published 1984. We know he published 1984 by the time Tolkien finishes this for publication. But I kind of wonder if Orwell's 1984 influences Tolkien a little bit here. Because Orwell comes up, with the slogans. War is peace. Slavery is freedom. Okay? What enters the lexicon as what's called doublespeak. Okay? Notice, Gimli sees through Saruman. And Saruman says, "Peace!" For a fleeting moment, he loses the suave calmness. He addresses Gimli, knows who he is, says, "You've been valiant, I'm sure." So he again addresses Theoden. Second time. He's addressed him once. Second time. He says, "Come on, will you have peace with me? Will you hear me? Blah, 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 blah." Aelmeric interrupts and says to Theoden, "Remember Theodred at the fords." Well, who's Theodred? Theoden's son. In the grave of Hama in Helm's Deep. Well, what happened to Theodred at the fords? His body was hacked to pieces. It wasn't only that he was killed. They then hacked him to little bits. Same thing happened to Hama. Saruman, "If we speak of poison tongues, which shall we say? You're a young serpent." Oops, sorry. I forgot who I was talking to. And he says, "You're a warrior, you're a soldier, I'm sure you were valiant. But you're not the thinker. You're merely a tool in your Lord's hand. In other words, Aelmer, you're a gun. Boom. That's all you do. Kill whom your Lord says to kill. You're not there to think about policy and such. third time. Am I to be called a murderer because valiant men have fallen in battle? Notice what he's just done. It's called moral equivalence. He's equated the things he's done with soldiers fighting in battle. When you kill somebody in a war, is that murder? If it's on the battlefield, I'm saying. Not, you go into somebody's house and, Okay? Casualty of war. It's not murder. What is Éomer talking about? Why did Theodred die at the fords? Because Saruman launched an attack. Was Saruman and Theoden at war? No, they were not. You can call this, the original terrorism. Theoden launched a terrorist attack. Who did he attack? Who were at the fords? Women and children. He slaughtered women and children. Okay? So, he draws this moral equivalence. Hey, all's fair. Theoden finally says, yes, we'll have peace. We'll have peace. And several riders shout and clap. Like, oh, thank God, we could go back home and not die. We'll have peace when? When you and all your works have perished, and the works of your dark master, to whom you would deliver us, and his men go, oh, crap. And the riders gaze up, and they look at Theoden like men startled out of a dream. And then Saruman just completely loses it. He no longer calls Theoden son of thrice-renowned Thingol, etc. Gibbets and crows, dotard, what is the house of Errol but a thatched barn, where brigands drink in the reek and their brats roll on the floor among the dogs. It's like, well, tell us what you really think, Saruman. So, he says, okay, I'm done talking with you, riffraff. But you, Gandalf, what does he do? He pulls out all the stops. He lets all the honey drip out of his voice. He says, will you not come up? Gandalf, what are you going to say or maybe unsay? So Saruman says a bunch of stuff. And what happens? We're told, top of 582, everybody thinks Gandalf's going to go up. They're going to make peace. We're screwed. Nobody can withstand that. Why? Because everybody who hears him thinks Gandalf should go up. And Gandalf just laughs. Says, you should have been a jester. Why? I am beyond your comprehension. So he says, but Saruman, why don't you come down? Saruman, yeah, right. Why should I? The treacherous are ever distrustful. You need not fear for your skin. I do not wish to kill you or hurt you, as you would know if you really understood me. I have the power to protect you. I am giving you a last chance. You can leave Orthanc free if you want. Free. Not with a little collar on your ankle, not with a tracker. You can go wherever you want. Yeah, you can even go down to Sauron if you want. Of course, he probably won't be all that happy. Okay? So Saruman doesn't take the offer, and he leaves. And Gandalf, kind of like Jesus at Lazarus' grave, says, come back. And Saruman walks like a robot. Okay, what's going on in Saruman's mind at this point? Oh, shh. What does he realize at this point when Gandalf tells him to come back? And he has to. Tables turned. I'm no longer his superior. Gandalf says, bottom of 583, you have become a fool, Saruman, and yet pitiable. You might still have turned away from falling evil and have been of service. But you choose to stay in all the ends, he says, so your staff is broken, and the staff he's hold on to, crack. Go. You have no color now. I cast you from the Order and from the Council. Why? Because I am Gandalf the White. Order means you're no longer a wizard. That is, use the Elvish name, one of the Istari. He doesn't mean you're no longer a Maya, one of those supernatural beings. Gandalf's not that powerful. He can't quite do that. But he can make him no longer a wizard. Okay? He's no longer a member of the White Council. Well, who's in the White Council? Gandalf, Saruman, Galadriel, Celeborn, Elrond, a few others. So, somebody throws this crystal ball thing down. The Palantir. All right. They turn their backs on Orthanc. They walk back down. And Pippin asks Gandalf, 585, what if Sauron does not conquer? What if we actually live and win? What will you do to him? Notice what Pippin's question implies. What does Gandalf have over Saruman? Authority, power, judgment? Gandalf, nothing. I will do nothing to him. I do not wish for mastery. Kind of like Dumbledore, right? I don't want control of others. He goes, what's going to happen to him? I don't know. Okay? So, we hear Saruman shriek. Why? Because he realizes what Wormtongue has done. Chapter 11, the Palantir. So, Pippin picks up this ball. And ever since he gives it back to Gandalf, what's happened to his hands? His fingers are itchy. He wants to hold this thing again. So, Gandalf's asleep, and Pippin sneaks over, lifts his arm, sticks a rock under, pulls the Palantir, goes off, and does whatever. And he looks at it. And wakes up everybody. And Gandalf makes him repeat what he saw. What did he see? Who did he see? Anybody? Who does the movie say he saw?
He sees the eye, and he also sees a tree on fire. But that's the movie.
The eye. We'll stop there. Sauron. Sauron speaks to him. Who does Sauron think Pippin is? Frodo. Where does he think Pippin is? In Orthanc. Because, the Palantir are kind of like, if you're Sauron and you kind of control them, you go to your, think of an old telephone, what do they call it? Operator. And you got the plugs to move in, this plug, this silver ball, crystal ball, Orthanc, Minas Tirith, etc., etc. Okay? So he thinks he's still with Saruman. What does he think Saruman is doing? Playing. He's playing. Not with Sauron. He's playing with Pippin. This is Saruman's way of kind of torture, making Pippin see what's going to happen. Okay? So Gandalf, kind of looks deeply in his eyes and says, there's no hurt. You haven't revealed anything. You didn't say, Sauron, look at the back door. Frodo's coming. Didn't reveal anything. So, Gandalf gives the Palantir to whom? Whose is it, really? Aragorn's. Why? Does it have, this was made for Aragorn carved on it? Aragorn's mind don't touch? No, it's because Aragorn is a descendant of the men of Westernessa. He is the future king of Gondor, and this was made by men of Westernessa. What else near where they are was made by these men? The Tower of Orthanc. Okay? So, Gandalf gives it to him and says, be careful with it. Aragorn's kind of like, what gives? Who are you talking to? I mean, you know me. When have I been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many long years? Gandalf, never yet, but don't stumble now. Okay? So, little hint. In a few 100 pages, we're going to find out Aragorn does look into it. And what does he do? I don't remember Return of the King, so I can't say, because I tried to wipe those memories completely out of my mind.
In the movie, he like shows off. He's like, "I'm coming for you. I'm
He reveals himself to Sauron as what? Rider of the North? No. King. Elisar. Dunedain. Elfstone. Descendant of the guy who cut your finger off. And I'm back. Oh, here's the sword that cut your finger off. I want to get the rest of the hand, you know. He kind of reveals himself so that Sauron gets worried, okay? But that's going to be later. So, what do Gandalf and Pippin do? Ride to Minas Tirith. Why? 2 reasons. What's the most obvious, the most immediately pressing? Why did Pippin look in the Palantir? The itchy palms. So what has Gandalf got to do? He's got to get him as far away from it as possible. Because he knows that temptation will come back. What's the other reason to go to Minas Tirith? Why Minas Tirith? Why not go try to find Frodo?
Saw the burning tree.
What's the burning tree?
It was like a dead tree. In the movie, it's like the white tree.
Yeah, the white tree of Gondor that is dead in the hall, in the center.
And like things were burning around it. Like the same basically.
Okay.
Is what the movie does.
Peter Jackson's such an ass.
17 Oscars, guys.
Yeah. We can talk about the value of Oscars. To warn Minas Tirith. That's why they go. To warn Minas Tirith. Open war is coming. So, what do we expect? We expect to turn the page and arrive at Minas Tirith. And instead, we're at Chapter 1, Book 4, The Taming of Smeagol. And where are Sam and Frodo?
They're walking on the mountain.
Back where we left them. All those days ago. Okay? So now we got to follow them all the way along. Meanwhile, we're left with Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and the Palantir, with Theoden and Eomer and the Riders of Rohan, and Gandalf and Pippin on their way to Minas Tirith. Okay? So, we see Gollum. He looks like a spider. We hear Gollum. And Gollum falls. Sam jumps him. It's not Gollum jumps Sam first. Sam jumps him first. Okay, but Gollum's like a wrestler and quickly turns around, bites him on the shoulder. Page 615. What does Sam want to do with Gollum? Tie it up, bottom of 614. Tie it up so as it can't come sneaking after us no more. That is, tie him up and leave him.
Die.
To die.
Yeah.
Okay? Gollum, what the? Look at that screw in the hobbits, his teeth ties up in the no. Frodo, no, can't do that. If we're going to kill him, we got to kill him outright. Gollum's like, no, don't like that no better. Poor wretch, he has done us no harm. And Sam's sitting there rubbing his shoulder with bite marks on it.
Dang, Mr. Frodo.
He wants to, Sam says. He'll throttle us in our sleep, Frodo. But what he means to do is another matter. Why? Just because he's planning this quote-unquote terrorist attack doesn't mean he's done it. This is Tolkien dealing with the whole notion of preemptive war. You can't, Tolkien, you can't do it. You can't go after somebody because of something they're thinking of doing. You know, Philip K. Dick, Minority Report. You can't arrest somebody kind of before they've done it. Unless, here's the caveat, you know, it's a high school kid who's posted all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go shoot up my high school. And you go to his bedroom and he's got, you know, all kinds of armament. Not for going out and hunting Bambi, but for going out and hunting, you know, several hundred people kind of a thing. And Frodo thinks and remembers. And he hears a voice. Just Kind of odd that it's perfectly remembered. It's like Tolkien takes the phrase and Frodo does what? Now that I do see him, I do pity him. Does he pity Gollum solely because he sees him? It's partly it. Why else?
He understands where it's coming
Why?
Because
It's the
he's
ring, right?
raised for it.
He's the ring bearer now. He feels the power of the ring. What happens to the power of the ring? The closer and closer he gets to Mordor.
It's stronger.
It's coming home to Papa, you know. It gets stronger and stronger. So, Gollum says, I'll help you. 6:18. We will swear to do what he wants. Yes, yes. It hurts us. Frodo, swear? Smeagol will swear. On the precious. Frodo's like, what the hell, man? On the precious? How dare you? And he quotes the line. Gollum, on the precious. What would you swear? To be very, very good. Okay, so to have Gollum swearing to be very, very good, that's not like having one of you to swear being very, very good. This is like Hitler. Little Hitler. So to be very, very good means to be what?
Not as bad.
Not really quite as bad as I could be. Okay? So, this is where Frodo needs to take a course in Negotiating 101. Because what doesn't he make Gollum swear? What's his oath? We promises I will swear, serve the master of the precious. Good master, good master. I will serve the master of the precious. Frodo should say, okay,
Serve me.
I want to amend that. You will serve Frodo Baggins,
Or Sam.
Lord of the Ring, okay, a.k.a. Mr. Underhill, formerly the artist known as, who lived at, number 4 Bagshot Row, the Shire, the West of Middle Earth, Arda. That's what you do when you get into contract negotiation. You make it very, very specific he doesn't do that. So that in just a few pages, what does Gollum start to think? Not Smeagol. Smeagol is the little teeny tiny bit of the real person. Gollum's the alter ego. Gollum's the Mr. Hyde to Dr. Jekyll. Okay? And what does the Mr. Hyde start to think? Yes, we can be the Mr. So, we have the Passage of the Dead Marshes. Page 625, we're told, the hobbits were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. Doesn't mean, Gollum's developed these big muscles and he's carrying them. It means without him, they're totally screwed. So, they get to the Dead Marshes, and Frodo asks, how do we shape our course now, Smeagol? He doesn't call him Gollum. Why? Because Gollum is evil. Smeagol, a little tiny bit of good. Must we cross these evil-smelling fins? Gollum says, well, no, not if you don't want to get to Mordor. Okay? So, they go through the Dead Marshes, and what happens? Frodo sees faces in the marshes. Why?
Died there.
Who died there?
Last Alliance.
Elves and men.
Last alliance of elves and men, like 3,000 years ago. These are the people that Elrond was talking about when he was Gil-galad's herald. Okay? So where does Tolkien get this imagery from? World War I. Crossing the Somme. Okay? The no man's land. And seeing, and we have other accounts by soldiers who survived World War I describing this. Seeing decapitated heads, faces looking up under pools of water. So they're crawling on their bellies to get from one trench to another, okay? Trying to take a little bit of land and they're crawling over bodies and body parts and seeing in a puddle, Fred's head. Okay? Not the kind of thing that easily leaves. So, what does Gollum have to say about the faces? Yeah, because he's been there before and he was hungry and he thought, food. Okay. Gollum, 628. Yes, all dead, all right. The elves and men and orcs, the dead merchants. Great battle long ago, so they told him when Smeagol was young. Yes, when I was young, before the precious. How young? How old is Smeagol? He's over 600 years old. The ring has kept him alive that long. Okay? They go on. They make their way across the dead marshes. They get to this kind of no man's land area. It looks like all volcanic, just volcanic land. And they go to sleep at the top of this hillside. And Sam wakes up and he sees Frodo at the bottom of the pit, and there's Gollum by him. And Sam just watches, and he hears kind of two voices. He hears Gollum side, and he hears the Smeagol side, and they're debating. And Gollum says, she might help. Sam's thinking, wonder who she is. Okay? They go to the Black Gate. Why? Where is the Black Gate? What is the Black Gate? It's the Black Gates called of the Morannon, this big, massive, fortress-like entrance at the north of Mordor. And Frodo's like, what good is this? We can't get in there. He's like, well, you asked me to take you to Mordor, so I took you to Mordor. Well, is there another way? Well, there might be. Is it guarded? Well, it might be. So, he leads them to the other way. Page 643. Gollum says he knows of another way, that it's guarded, and we're told towards the bottom of the page. Frodo felt a strange certainty that in this matter Gollum was for once not so far from the truth as might be suspected. He had found a way out of Mordor, but for one thing he noted that Gollum used I. And that seemed usually to be a sign on its rare appearances that some remnants of old truth and sincerity were for the moment on top. Okay? So Frodo asks again, is it not guarded? He says, yes, every place is guarded, Okay? So, they keep going on. I'll be so glad when that class is done. They keep going on, and let's see. Chapter 4, Stewed Herbs and Rabbit. Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. They're in Ithilien. They find out what it's called later. And Sam notices what about Frodo? He's gotten thin and haggard. And he thinks, I know what Frodo needs. He needs a real meal. Because what have they been living on? Cliff bars. Galadriel bars, I guess. Okay? Limbus. Yeah, you get all the nutrients you need, but they're just not all that filling. So Sam thinks a couple of dead rabbits, maybe some taters. Gollum's like, taters? So, what does he do? We're not eating a raw rabbit. So he creates a fire. It makes smoke. They get captured. And they start to talk to their captors, and Aragorn says, No, not even him either. Frodo, page 658. Frodo says, do you know about the words Boromir took to Rivendell? Faramir goes, yeah. He then talks about Aragorn a little bit, and Faramir kind of gets right to the heart of the matter. And what is Isildur's bane? He goes, well, that's hidden. Notice, that is hidden. He doesn't say, I can't tell you. Faramir, We'll find out more about this later. But for now, let's not talk. Okay? So Sam gets to see Oliphants, etc. Faramir and his men take Frodo and Sam to their hideout. Page 664. On their way there, they start to talk some more. Faramir says, I should have pushed you earlier so much. And Frodo again tells Faramir about Aragorn. Who Aragorn is, who he's descended from, what sword he carries. Faramir's like, that would be totally awesome if he could come visit, Minas Tirith, etc. And Faramir then asks Frodo, bottom of 664. So you say Boromir was your friend. Then you would grieve to learn that Boromir's dead. Frodo, yeah, I would. And then he's like, whoa, you mean he really is dead? Well, you sneaky little son of a... Why? What does Frodo think that means? If Boromir's dead, describe Boromir along with the rest of the company. Yeah, they're all dead. If Boromir's dead, the rest must be dead also. Faramir says, that I don't know. I'd hope maybe you could tell me how he died. He was breathing and kicking last time I saw him. Okay. So Sam, getting a little tired of the third degree, plants himself in front of Frodo and defends him. So they make their way. They actually get to the hideout. And 668, Faramir says what happened. He had a vision. He had a dream. He saw Boromir. He went to the edge of the water, found the boat, Boromir's horn. Frodo says, yeah, that's him, yeah. And he tells Faramir, about a third of the way down, go back, Faramir, valiant captain of Gondor, defend your city while you may, and let me go where my doom takes me. While you may. What is Frodo implying?
You're in it.
Yeah, I mean, what is Frodo showing us is going on internally? No hope. He doesn't think they're going to make it. Okay? So, 669, he says, there was division in your company, wasn't there? Don't I hit the mark? Something about Isildur's Bane? Frodo, yeah, close, but not a bullseye. He goes, okay. Said, yeah, your trouble was with Boromir. Frodo, yeah, closer. And then they talk about Gandalf. And Faramir's like, no, he can't be dead. Okay?
Oh my god.
671. Faramir says, when Frodo admits to, there was this division between he and Boromir. Faramir says, whatever this thing is, Isildur's Bane, bottom of the page, I would not take this thing if it lay by the highway. Not were Minas Tirith falling in ruin, and I alone could save her. So meaning thus, with this thing, using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory, I do not wish for such triumphs, Frodo, son of Drogo. You give me the most powerful weapon in the world. If it's lying by the side of the road, he says, I wouldn't use it if it would bring me glory and life to my city. Why? Because it was made by the Dark Lord. And what does that genius 17 Oscar film director do? He has Faramir take Frodo and Sam to Osgiliath to deliver them to his father so his father can get the ring. Completely turns the character upside down. Why? Suspense.
Make the journey harder.
Because the death so needed to be.
So, later on, what happens? Sam blurts out about the ring. He goes, oh, so that's what it Sauron's ring. And a couple of midgets bring it right to me. And I could take it. And I could have all the power in the world, you know. And Frodo and Sam whip out their little swords, face back to back. And 681. Faramir says, "Alas for Boromir, it was too sore a trial. But you are less judges of men than I of halflings. I told you, we are truth speakers, men of God." Yeah, but Boromir wasn't. "We both seldom then perform. Not if I found it on the highway would I take it. Even if I were such a man as to desire this," he says, "my oath would hold me. So I'm not going to take you to Osgiliath and take you to my father. I'm not going to keep you either." What's he say? "If I can help you, I will." Right? This is important because Tolkien wants us to show, or Tolkien wants to show us, Faramir and Boromir are brothers of Denethor. They are also descended from the men of Western Essa, just like Aragorn is. But what's the difference between Faramir and Boromir? Their will? What else? Seeking glory?
He knows that not bringing Frodo will lead to his, disownment.
Okay. Does he?
Well, he says it's...
We'll hold on to that. Okay. So, chapter 6, Forbidden Pool, they capture Gollum. And what does Faramir do to Gollum? How does he get Gollum to reveal the truth? Put him in irons, put him on the rack, get out the hot pokers, you know. He looks in his eyes. And he goes, "Yeah, I wouldn't trust him. There's not evil right now, but..." Frodo's like, "Okay, so you know the back door entrance? Can you get me into it?" "No." Journey to the crossroads. Skipping a lot more than I usually do. They get to the crossroads. Where are the crossroads? Okay. You're looking at the map, and I'm the map. So Mordor has mountains that kind of go like this. They go up here and down this way. Okay. And there's a spur here. Right. The crossroads run from like right here all the way down to the sea, and then north and south. Okay. So the crossroad, if you could look all the way down it, and you didn't have any undergrowth, and you didn't have curvature of the earth, you could see the ocean. Okay? They get to the crossroads, and they see a fallen statue. The statue is still sitting there, but the head's been lopped off and is lying on the ground. Okay? And Frodo says, "Sam, look! Look! The king has got a crown again." Why? Because the king's head is lying on the ground. And around the king's head, there is like an ivy vine with flowers, golden flowers on it. And just at that moment, as clouds are coming from the east, it's the gathering gloom, okay? There is a shaft of sunlight from the setting sun shining down this road. And what does it do? It hits the statue's head lying on the ground. And it hits the circlet of flowers. And Frodo says, "They cannot conquer forever." This is Frodo's taking a little bit of hope from what? A little bit of sunlight. That's it. They take the stairs of Cirith Ungol. Okay? What did Faramir say about this path? Because Gollum said where they're going. He goes, "Yeah, I've heard of that. You don't want to go there." Minas Morgul is the valley, okay? And there's like a fortress there. It's where the captain of the nine rules, etc. So page 711. They walk and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. They go up a whole bunch of stairs, hundreds, and they finally take a stop, take a break. But they don't want to drink any water from there. They hear the sound of water. And Frodo says, just after the middle of page 711, "I don't like anything in here at all. Step or stone, breath or bone, earth, air, water, all seem accursed. but so our path is laid. Now, earlier, when they were at the Dead Marshes, Frodo asked Gollum, how do we shape our steps? Here, so our path is laid. How we shape our steps implies we have what?
An option.
We have option. We have will. Here, it's all fate. So Sam says, yeah, that's right, Mr. Frodo. And you know what? We wouldn't be here if we'd known more about it before we started. Why are you shaking your head, Paul?
That has nothing to... Well, actually, no, that goes back to what Gandalf said.
Yeah, I mean, this is all the way back into Frodo's house in the Shadow of the Past.
Well, no, I mean like Gandalf knowing about the having no hope because of knowing
Okay.
the path.
What does Sam mean? If we had known what? This.
We wouldn't have done it.
Way back then, we wouldn't have come. We'd never stepped foot outside the Hobbit hole. True or false? Friend of mine, older woman, she's in her 80s from church. We had a thing at our house for her on Sunday evening. Her husband died a few years ago. I was his godfather. He was, twice my age. He was my godson because he became Orthodox. Anyways, John died, and Lee's getting ready to move with one of her daughters to West Virginia. So we had a thing at her house. And she said, another person who couldn't be there said, he asked me at one point, he said, knowing what you know now, after everything you went through before her husband died, because he had to have both legs amputated and just one problem after another, would you do it all over again? She goes, oh gosh, yes. She's an old Midwestern lady. In a heartbeat. She said, I met him, and 3 months later we were married. She was engaged when she met him. Okay? And they were married 60-some years. And she said, with everything that yes, I would have done it. Okay? Sam is saying, we wouldn't be here if we knew what? This point in the story where we were. This point in the story, however, isn't what? It's not the end. It's not the whole story. So he goes on. We got to spend some time with this next page and a half. But I suppose it's often that way. The brave things in the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo, adventures as I used to call them. I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull, a kind of a sport, as you might say. Pause there, look at Harry Potter. Does Harry Potter go out looking for trouble? Hermione kind of says, Harry, don't go. I don't. Trouble finds me. I wasn't looking for trouble when Voldemort showed up when I was a year and 3 months, 5 months. Sam's saying the same thing. The really good stories that you like, he says, I used to think the people in those stories, they went out looking for that kind of adventure. No. That's not the way of the tales that really mattered. Folks seem to have been just landed in them, usually. They didn't have a choice in the matter, he suggested. Their paths were laid that way, as you say it. This, Frodo's statement about their path being laid, that's what starts Sam off on this reverie, literary criticism kind of thing. But I expect they had lots of chances like us of turning back, only they didn't. What kind of stories is he talking about? Fairy stories. Arthur. King Arthur stories. Beowulf and such. Heroic stories. He says, those people had a chance to turn back. Beowulf did not have to fight the dragon and such. Harry did not have to fight Voldemort, did he? I mean, what did Dumbledore say? You could, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, even then, you could go on. Even before then. He says, if you had never heard about the prophecy, what would you want to do, Harry? I'd want to stop him. Okay? They had chances of, when did they have a chance of turning back? Here, in this book. Rivendell? Did somebody say, Frodo, It's your job. Step up to the plate. Be a man. Okay, I know you're a midget, but be a man, Do it. No. Where else did they have a chance? Lothlorien? But they didn't. And if they had turned back, what? We should know. Why? Because we wouldn't have the Lord of the Rings if Frodo turned tail at Rivendell. We wouldn't have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows if Harry Potter stopped at Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Or, I can show you who to trust, Potter. Who could be... Okay, Draco, I'll be your friend. Yeah, you and me together will come. And we wouldn't have Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets. Okay, it would have stopped right then. We hear only about those as just went on. And not all to a good end, mind you. So what stories can you think of, what quote-unquote good heroic stories where the characters don't come to a good end? Who? Julius Caesar? Achilles? Agamemnon? I mean, most of those great Greek stories all end that way. Hercules? They end not so great. Arthur? How does Arthur die? His bastard incestuous son kills him. Okay? And yet we still hold Arthur up as, an ideal. Doesn't mean go have incest with your half-sister, and though Tolkien does in the Silmarillion, I mean, he pulls in everything from all the traditions. Okay? Not a good end, mind you, at least not to what folk inside a story, not outside it, call a good end. Why? Because what do folk inside the story call a good end? And they all lived happily ever after. Isn't that what we all want in the story of our lives? We want to live to a ripe old age and then die peacefully in our sleep. We don't want the Parkland, Florida ending to our story. Where some half-crazed student comes in and starts killing a bunch of people. But that is how some people's stories end. Coming home, finding things all right, though not quite the same, like old Mr. Bilbo. Well, who gets that story? Sam does. Sam gets that happy ending. Frodo doesn't. Okay? But those aren't always the best tales to hear, though they may be the best tales to get landed into. And then he says, I wonder what kind of story this is, Mr. Frodo. Which way is this going to end? Well, Frodo's kind of already given us an indication of what's going on in his mind. He's thinking death, despair, destruction. Frodo, I wonder, but I don't know. And that's the way of a real tale. Anyone that you're fond of. You may know or guess what kind of a tale it is. Happy ending, sad ending. The people in it don't know. Because what would happen if they did? Let's use a tale from Greek literature. Oedipus the King. What happens in Oedipus the King? How many of you have read that before? Anybody? None of you. Okay. Oedipus the King. Oedipus is a young man who, one night at a party, a drunk says, so the guy's drunk, you are fated to kill your father and sleep with your mother. But the guy's drunk. So Oedipus doesn't think much of it. Thinks a little bit of it. And he tells his parents. His parents are king and queen of the city of Corinth. And they go, the guy's drunk. Don't pay any attention to it. But it bothers him. So he goes to the oracle at Delphi, which doesn't lie. And the oracle says, yes, you are fated to kill your father and sleep with your mother and bring forth a brood that should not see the light of day. And he's like, ew! So what does he think? Put yourself in his shoes. What do you do? He runs away. I love Mom. not that way. I love Dad. I don't want to kill him, and I sure as you know what, do not want to sleep with her. So he runs away. When he runs away, he comes to a crossroads. He's the only one there, except for one other guy in a chariot with some men, followers, supporters, and they won't move. That is, they won't get out of his way. But there are like 5 or 6 of them and just him. Common sense would kind of say what? Just get out of the way and let them. But no. He kills them. All of them. Except for one. Okay? Then he arrives at another town, the town of Thebes. And Thebes now has a Sphinx problem.
Why didn't he kill the other one?
He got away. He just got away. And because it's part of the plot of the story. So, the Sphinx is there, and the Sphinx is demanding a tribute every day. Until you solve my riddle, you have to send out one of your living people. And the Sphinx has been there for not real long. So, Oedipus comes, and because he's bright, he solves the riddle of the Sphinx. Anybody know what the riddle of the Sphinx is? What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, 3 legs in the evening? Man. 4 legs as a baby, 2 legs as a man, 2 legs in a cane in the evening. He solves the riddle of the Sphinx goes away, he's hailed as a hero. Oh, and guess what? We have a queen whose husband appears to be dead. Why don't you marry her? Great. Turns out to be his mother. Unbeknownst to him, because he's never seen her. Why? Because the people he thought were his mother and father were his adopted parents. Why? Because mom and dad, real mom and dad, received a prophecy when his mother, Jocasta, was pregnant that said, oh, by the way, the one you are carrying will kill you, Laius, and marry you, Jocasta, and bring a brood of, What do they not obviously do? They knew how to do this in 5th century BC Greece or 1000 century or 1000 BC Greece. They don't abort him. Similarly, they don't let Jocasta give birth and slit his neck. What do? They give him to a shepherd who is supposed to take him out and set him on a mountainside and let wild animals eat him. He takes him out, sets him on the mountainside, and there's another shepherd who says, oh no, poor little baby, don't do that. Here, I'll take him away. Okay? So, the upshot of all that. Oedipus knows the outcome of his story. And what does he do? He tries to stop it from happening, and in trying to stop it from happening, he makes it happen. That's why Frodo says, no, you don't want them to know the end of the story. Do you really want to know what your life is going to have between now and the day you die? I don't know. My mom died of Alzheimer's a couple of years ago. There are genetic tests I can do that will tell me whether or not I have the markers that are likely to indicate. I mean, I already think I do because I'm mixing up my words all the time and forget stuff all the time. Do I want proof? No. No. Because I want to be able to go, oh, did I just forget that? And, Sam, no, sir. Of course not. Of course they don't want to know. Baron now. Baron never thought he was going to get that Silmaril. And yet he did. He was in a worse place than we are. Well, but that's a long tale, of course, and what else? And that was a long time ago. And it goes on past the happiness into grief and beyond it. And that Silmaril, what would happen to that Silmaril? Why, it went on and it came to Earendil. You're wearing the light of that Silmaril around your neck, Mr. Frodo. We're in the same tale still. Don't the old tales ever come to an end, Frodo? No, they don't. The tale never ends, but the people's parts go in and out. And that's where Frodo's kind of, being a little pessimistic. Okay? So what do they suddenly realize after all that? Where's Gollum? Because he's not been sitting there listening with rapt attention to, Sam expound about the meaning of fairy stories. He's gone. So they wonder, is Gollum a villain or hero? So Frodo and Sam fall asleep. And Gollum comes back hours later. This is key. Gollum sees them. There's Sam leaning up against the rock. Frodo lying on the ground, his head in Sam's lap. On Frodo's forehead is one of Sam's hands, and the other is right here on Frodo. Why? Because Sam's weird? No. What's he doing? He's protecting him. He's making sure he doesn't move. Frodo moves, Sam wakes up. Right? Gollum looked at them. Strange expression passed over his lean, hungry face. The gleam fades from his eyes, and they went dim and gray, old and tired. Spasm of pain twists him. He looks back up, the path from whence he came, and back at them, and back again, as if in some interior debate. Then he comes back, and what does he do? He gently puts out a trembling hand and very cautiously touches Frodo on the knee. But the touch was almost a caress, the narrator says. If somebody else could have seen this, narrator says, they would have thought that they beheld an old, weary hobbit, shrunken by the years that had carried him far beyond his time, beyond friends and kin, and the fields and streams of youth, an old, starved, pitiable thing. Gollum. Doing what? AT&T commercial. 1980s. Reach out and touch someone. Why does he touch Frodo on the knee? Why not the foot? Why not the shoulder? Why not the head? Why not the hip? Yes, it's very symbolic. Of what?
You know, to do it right.
Ancient Greek literature, the Old Testament. Okay? Touching someone on the knee, either simply by touching them, clasping their knees, putting your arms, putting your head on their knee. It's all symbolic of one thing. You know what it is? You're nodding your head. Begging for mercy or a blessing. That is a means of supplication. I think, I could be wrong, this is Gollum wanting to be like them. This is, take that back, this is Smeagol. Connecting with the hobbits. This is the three amigos, And what happens? Hey you, what are you up to? Nothing, nice, master. It's not nothing nice, master. I dare say, but where have you been to? Sneaking off and sneaking back, you old villain. Look at the description. Gollum withdrew himself. Two meanings to that. One physical, one up here. He pulls back. But what else does he do? He mentally, he interiorly withdraws. How do we know? And a green glint flickered under his heavy lids. That green glint, that's the kiss of death, man. Every time Tolkien gives us that, ain't nothing good going to come from this. And what does he say? Or notice what we're told. The fleeting moment had passed beyond recall. What was the fleeting moment? Louder? Humanity or hobbitanity. Okay. Hobbity. This is Gollum's possibility. I could be wrong. Transformation or redemption. This could be Gollum's cure. Notice, Gandalf has not much hope. But what if Sam had said, oh, Gollum, you're like my great grandparent. Would he have suddenly, found Jesus? No, he wouldn't. Would he have suddenly been changed, different? We don't know. What we do know is that moment gone. In other words, now when Gollum looks up the chasm or looks up the passageway, he's thinking,
Yes.
dirty little rotten bastard gonna get what he is coming down. Okay? Where have you been? Sneaking. Oh, such nice hobbitses, he says. So, they follow him, and where does he lead them? Shelob's lair. Okay? How do they defeat Shelob? And who is the they?
Well, Sam and he stabs it, and then gets
With?
Frodo's sword.
Stabs Shelob with sting and holds up the file and says, the magic words. O Elbrith, Gilthoniel, blah, 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 blah. Shelob runs away. What does Sam do? What has Shelob already done by the time Sam does that?
Kill.
Bites Frodo, has him wound up. Okay? So what does Sam, Sam goes up,
Takes the ring.
takes his pulse, nothing.
Freezing. Listens for breath.
Nothing. He's dead. So we get the choices of Master Samwise. What are his choices?
Take
Just
it.
stay here and die.
I mean, he's got multiple choices. One, stay here and die.
Go home.
Go home.
Take Frodo. Go
Okay.
home. Or
Take
continue.
the ring.
Take the ring and go on. Become the ring bearer. Why was Sam chosen? Why were all the members of the fellowship chosen?
Bit by chance. Like
No.
fate.
No. No. What's the purpose of the fellowship? Not Frodo's purpose. The fellowship's purpose is to ensure the ring bearer succeeds. It's to fulfill the quest. Okay? So if Frodo had failed, back at Moria, somebody else would take the ring and keep it, It's like the Black Knight and Monty Python. You just chop off legs and arms, and I'll just keep. Sam's the last one left standing. Okay? So, me alone go to the crack of doom and all. Me take the ring. The council, well, no, the council didn't quite give it to him. He offered to take it, and the council appointed Sam goes. So he leaves. And what does he discover? Just like me to screw it up. Because what does he hear?
Frodo's still alive.
Frodo's still alive. Frodo's not dead. He's just been poisoned. Why? It's like Shelob's way of preserving him for a while. So, we finish Sam, what? Trying to get into the orc stronghold, and he's locked out. Now, you have to wait 11 months, I think it is. No, 9 months, I think it is, for the Return of the King to come. The Return of the King gets published, book 5, and what does Tolkien do? We're left with Frodo and Sam, and we're all the way back to Gandalf and Merry and Pippin. Gandalf and Pippin have just jumped on Shadowfax, and they're riding to Minas Tirith. What a cruel person he is. Right? So, quiz on Thursday.